Hello. After many years of teaching painting, I find one of the biggest problems that the students have is mixing muddy colours. Many a good painting is spoiled by using muddy colours, and it's a very easy thing to get over. All we've got to do is avoid mixing complementary colours. If we look at the colour wheel, we can't just have one primary colour of each. What we need is a bias on each primary colour. So we've got the primary colours yellow, blue and red. Mix any of those two together and that gives us the secondaries, green, orange and violet. Now it's when we mix complementary colours together that we get mud. So we need to avoid mixing yellows and violets, orange and blues. So the colours that I use for the yellows is cadmium yellow, lemon yellow, for the blues, cobalt blue, French ultramarine, and for the reds, permanent magenta and cadmium red. So to mix bright colours, what we need to do is have the bias that leads to the colour that you want. So lemon yellow, it's got green in it, so we mix that with cobalt blue, which has got green in it, which gives us a bright green. If we use cadmium yellow, which has got orange in it, which is leaning round to the complementary side, and French ultramarine, which has got violet in it, which again is leading round to the complementary side, that will give us a muddy colour. And the same with violets. If we use permanent magenta that's got violet in it, and French ultramarine that's got violet in it, we'll get a bright violet. But if we use cadmium red and cobalt blue, each have got the complementaries in, then we'll get a muddy violet. So if we look to making a nice bright green, we're going to use cobalt blue and lemon yellow. So mixing these two together will give us a nice bright green. Now, if I thought, well, that's a bit too bright, I could do with it muting a little bit. I'd then add a little bit of the complementary. And the complementary of green is red. So just a touch of red is all we need. We don't want a lot, just a tiny little bit of cadmium red. And what we get is a muted green, more of an olive green. And many a time that's more pleasant than having a really bright green. We can mix a muddy green by using the two that's got complementaries in them. So that's French ultramarine and cadmium yellow. So putting these two together, we get much more of a muddy green. So the same with the violet. If we want a bright violet, then we're going to use the two colours that have got the colour in it. So that's French ultramarine, which has got violet in it, and permanent magenta. So that gives us a nice bright violet. And again, if that was too bright, we can neutralise that by adding a little bit of the complementary. So just a tiny bit of yellow into that will knock the violet back. So we've got a muddy violet now. But there's times when this is useful. If you're doing slates on a house roof, if you're painting in Wales and you're doing slates on a house roof, that is a wonderful colour for slates. But it's no good if you want a bright violet. So you've got to pick your colours according to what you use. If you didn't like permanent magenta, you could use alizarin crimson, but the end result will be totally different. So every artist picks their own colours, and that's why many a time you can look at a painting and you can say, I know who painted that, because there's a lot of this colour in it. And so by doing this, you personalise your painting. It's not a case of you just sitting there and painting. You're giving it something of your own. And I think this is important when it comes to colour mixing, that you sort out your own palette so you know the properties of each colour. Now, I don't have blacks, greys or whites in my palette. To mix a dark, I prefer to make my own dark. So I always start with French ultramarine. And into that, I put any of the earth colours. burnt sienna, burnt umber, or raw umber, or light red. And the important thing about it is to use very little water. We want it really nice and strong. So by mixing burnt sienna and French ultramarine, we get a nice strong dark. If we were doing a nice warm scene, it was a sunny day and you wanted a dark in the edge bottom, a nice warm dark is the thing we aim for. Now, if it was a winter's day, that same edge row, we'd want a cool dark. So a little bit more of the ultramarine into that dark, and we shift it to the blue side, which cools it down and makes it more suitable for a winter scene. With colour, it's important that we get the tone. I don't like to have lots of water in the palette. What I prefer to do is have a nice strong dark, that if I wanted to have the same colour but lighter tone, I can just pick up a pinhead of that colour and put that down, which gives us a lighter tone. I can go and put down even lighter tone. If I wanted that strong colour back again, no problem. I can go back to the dark. So you're adjusting the tone with the water. Well, I hope that's been of use to you, and I maybe see you soon. So until then, keep painting. Thank you and bye.